on YouTube. In this video, we'll explore Porto's history a bit. But don't worry, it's not about kings and bishops, it's about the people. Let's take a walk. Here we are at our first stop, Bolhão Market, the beating heart of Porto's everyday life since the 1800s. It's only 8:30 in the morning, so it's still pretty quiet here. I figure that will change in a couple of hours. The market spreads across 2 floors with entrances on all sides. Rua Formosa below, Fernandes Tomás above, and Sá de Bandeira and Alexandre Braga in between. Bolhão is all about food and fresh produce. Fishmongers with today's catch, butchers, piles of fruit and vegetables, and flower stalls adding color everywhere you look. Outside you'll find cafes, fabric shops, and tiny groceries that have been here for generations. Walking through, you feel the mix of history and daily life. The granite, iron, and wood of the old market meet modern touches like elevators, restaurants, and even a direct connection to the metro. What hasn't changed is the spirit. This is still Porto's beating heart, where locals shop, traders call out prices, and visitors like me come to soak in the atmosphere. By the way, all the restaurants on the outside of the market facing the streets, they buy all their stuff here. Bolhão isn't just a market, it's a monument to the city itself, resilient, authentic, and full of life. I love this place. You can get everything from fruit to cheese to meat to seafood and spices and pretty much everything for your daily life. You can get it right here. And yes, you can also do that at a supermarket, but this is the much nicer shopping experience, I think. From the market, it's just a few steps to Rua Santa Catarina, the city's main pedestrian artery. Rua de Santa Catarina is Porto's most famous shopping street, a lively stretch that's now mostly closed to cars and reserved for pedestrians. The street takes its name from the Chapel of Souls dedicated to Catherine of Alexandria. As you walk along, you're surrounded by a mix of big-name brands, traditional shops, street vendors, and elegant 19th century facades. This is where Aurelio Paz das Reis shot the very first Portuguese film back in 1896, a reminder that Santa Catarina has always been at the center of the city's life. Over the years, the street became home to landmarks like the Grand Hotel de Porto, where even the last empress of Brazil spent her final days. Writers, poets, and artists have lived here too, making the street as cultural as it's commercial. Today, locals and tourists stroll side by side, shopping, people watching, or just soaking up the atmosphere. And at the heart of it all, you find Café Majestic. Opened in 1921, this Belle Époque cafe was once a meeting point for Porto's intellectual elites. Now, it's one of the city's most beautiful coffee houses, and later in the day, extremely popular with visitors. I guess I picked the wrong time to come to Liberty Square. We are at Avenida dos Aliados and Praça de Liberdade. And you could say that if the Bolhão Market was the city's stomach, this was the city's voice. It's seen major parades on the Avenida under the dictatorship, and it's seen massive protests at Praça de Liberdade. Praça de Liberdade is usually the grand centerpiece of downtown Porto, a wide square framed by 19th century facades and crowned by the equestrian statue of King Pedro IV. Unfortunately, when I arrive, much of the square is under heavy construction, so instead I follow the natural extension of the square, Avenida dos Aliados, the Avenue of the Allies. This grand avenue is Porto's version of a civic boulevard. It climbs gently uphill, lined with ornate buildings from the early 20th century, a showcase of granite, stone carvings and wide balconies. Many of these were designed by architects like Marques da Silva, blending Beaux-Arts influences with Porto's own granite strength. The centerpiece at the top is Porto's City Hall, with its tall clock tower dominating the skyline. Along the avenue, you'll also find hotels, banks, and cafes, places that have long been a backdrop for parades, protests, football celebrations, and everyday life. Even with construction fencing here and there, it's hard not to feel the weight of history and the scale of ambition that shaped the space. Praça de Liberdade may have been off limits today, but Avenida dos Aliados still delivers the grandeur, a true stage where Porto shows itself to the world. So that behind me is the Cadeia da Relação, Porto's old prison. Behind these walls, stories were told by kings, but by those who got silenced. Today, it's a photography museum. Okay, I entered the museum and I will not show you the artwork that is displayed here because that is someone else's intellectual property, not mine. But I will take a look. However, I love that they kept the architecture of the place as it was, including the barred doors. What I can show you is some of the beautiful old cameras they have on display on the upper floor. So let's have a look. Okay, I am standing in a former prison cell looking at toy cameras made for kids. So that's what you do with a place that has a dark history like this one. You don't tear it down, you leave it there to keep the memory alive, but you can also put something more positive and constructive inside. That's what they did with this one. I really love the museum inside. Not every viewpoint in Porto comes with a ticket or a guidebook. Miradouro da Vitória is free, it's raw, and it offers the best view I've had so far. Did I mention it's free? That's also why all the tour groups love to come here. And so we're heading into Ribeira, which is where Porto really feels the most authentic. You have narrow staircases, you have clothing lines hanging outside, you have facades that need renovation. Ribeira is one of Porto's oldest neighborhoods, and today one of its liveliest. Right along the Douro River, this quarter is part of the city's UNESCO World Heritage Area, and you can feel the layers of history in every cobblestone, alley and archway.
Yes, we have this fridge.
Now, of course, when you want to film a narrow street, you don't want to encounter construction going on. It doesn't really do a lot for the images you get. But I won't complain. It means that the houses are undergoing maintenance, and honestly, a lot of them need it. Many of these houses, they have a shop on the ground level, and then all the stories above it are empty because the house is in bad shape. So a lot of these need restoration, and it's good to see they're getting it. The story of Ribeira goes way back. In Roman times, port facilities stood near what is now the Casa do Infante, where mosaics from the 4th century have been uncovered. This is also where Prince Henry the Navigator is said to have been born in 1394. By the Middle Ages, Ribeira had grown into a bustling waterfront settlement, packed with merchants, fishermen, and shipbuilders, all feeding Porto's rise as a maritime hub. Fires, wars, and even the tragedies of Ponte de Barcas in 1809 left their marks, but Ribeira always came back to life. The Duke of Ribeira, one of the city's most charismatic figures, even became a legend for rescuing people from the river. Over the centuries, Porto's wealthier families moved uphill, and Ribeira slipped into decline. By the 20th century, it was overcrowded and run down. But starting in the 1970s, an ambitious renewal project brought the neighborhood back, restoring its medieval streets and opening the way for cafes, bars, and restaurants. That work paid off. In 1996, Ribeira became UNESCO World Heritage Site, and today it's one of Porto's postcards. Walking here now, you see it all. The arches of the old river wall, Rua da Fonte Taurina, one of the city's oldest streets, and crowds gathered on the waterfront terraces with a view of the Dom Luis Bridge. Ribeira may be ancient, but it's very much alive, mixing history, nightlife, and the constant flow of the Douro right at its doorstep. Today, the banks of the Douro are a major popular tourist attraction. People come for the views, for a photo op, or for a river cruise. For centuries, though, the Douro River has been the lifeline of the city. Forget kings and bishops and cathedrals. Without this river, there would be no Porto. The Douro River is more than just a backdrop for Porto. It's the reason the city exists. For centuries, this river has been Porto's lifeline, carrying goods, ideas, and people between the Atlantic coast and the interior of Portugal. Most famously, the Douro is the birthplace of port wine. For generations, barrels were shipped downriver from the vineyards of the Douro Valley on flat-bottomed boats called rabelos. They would dock here in Porto, where the wine aged in cellars at Vila Nova de Gaia before being exported to the world. But the Douro has always been more than wine. It was Porto's highway long before roads and railways, fueling trade and turning the city into one of Europe's great commercial hubs. Ships lined the quays in Ribeira, loading and unloading everything from fish and grain to textiles and exotic goods from overseas. The river also shaped Porto's identity. Life here has always been tied to the Douro, from fishermen casting nets at dawn to legendary figures like the Duke of Ribeira. Even today, the river is a stage for festivals, boat parades, and fireworks, connecting the city to its traditions. Standing on its banks now, with bridges arcing overhead and boats gliding past, it's clear that the Douro isn't just geography. It's history, culture, and the soul of Porto itself. One of the things that made Porto rich is, of course, port wine. The thing is, port wine isn't even from Porto. It's from Gaia. But that's just across the river, over the bridge behind me. That, by the way, was built by Gustave Eiffel. Yes, that one. Okay. This square I'm on is actually marked as Centro Histórico on the map, historical center, and I have never seen, well, in all of my time in Porto, I haven't seen that many obviously non-historic buildings in one place yet. But of course, as soon as I say that, I turn around and there is this church again. Okay, I figure we will wrap up this walk where we started it more than 5 hours ago in real time, because I can use a snack. So that was just what I needed. I had 3 little bites with chorizo, with goat cheese and tomato chutney, and with stuffed squid. And that was from the store that said their stuff is cheaper than therapy and tastier than your ex. Now, it was just what I needed. Alright folks, that was today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Next one, we will hit the road. So I hope you will come along with me on that one as well. Until then, take care, stay safe, and have a great time.